Welcome to Issues of Contemporary Politics with Dr. Brovkin. A couple of days ago, I made a video on the political crisis in France. And today, my dear subscribers, I'd like to discuss the political crisis in Britain. As we all know, there's lots of reports on the media about the demonstration or a big rally that took place on the 13th of September in London, which is known as Unite the Kingdom rally. But when I watched the reports and various kinds of analysis of this event, it seemed to me that what was missing is some actual data and some background as to what is really happening and why the issue of immigration has reached such incredible proportions as it has in Britain. Now, the event itself, of course, is extraordinary. By the account of most observers, it is the largest rally ever. Now, according to the official data, which most people think is under accounting, there was about 150,000 participants. Now, the other analysis that I've seen by specialists who evaluated the size of the crowds by watching from the drones and footage from the tops, it looked like more like 1 million people. Now, whatever the original, the true figure is, it doesn't really matter because everyone would agree that it was a huge crowd. This was filling many streets in central London. Now, they were carrying flags, British flags and English flags, and their slogans, as we have all seen, were, "We want our country back, stop illegal immigration." A lot of speeches were about free speech. There was expression of patriotic views, and as we all know, Elon Musk addressed by a video link the crowds and talked about uncontrolled migration, destroying Britain, as he put it, and he called for the dissolution of parliament and for the revolution, for the regime change. There were also notable speakers, Eric Zemmour, who is known in the French politics as extreme right and nationalist, speaking often against Islam and against migration from North Africa to France, and that there were also AfD, Alternative for Germany representative speaking. So in a sense, it was a kind of a rally that was focusing specifically on the central issue, and that is the issue of migration and the patriotism as the way that was presented. Now, then there were clashes with the police. There were some scenes of violence, pretty much like in France. There were bottles thrown and flares and projectiles at the police. 26 policemen were injured, and 25 protesters were injured as well. Then there were arrests, not that many, 25. And there were huge deployment of police, of thousands of them brought from all over Britain. Now, the reaction to this rally was quite significant in the sense that Prime Minister Starmer referred to it as that we would never surrender. These are his words: never surrender to far-right thugs. So if you listen to this reaction, who is a far-right thug? Is that Tommy Robertson, or is it 100,000 people by official count, if not more? Now, the Liberal Democrats, that's the another one of three major political parties, their leader, Ed Davey, said that these, I quote, "these far-right thugs do not speak for Britain." Again, I wonder who he meant. All of the people who were there waving British flags, or just Tommy Robertson, the organizer. And finally, the party Reform UK by Farage, who is quite popular now and leading in the polls, also tried to be distancing himself a little bit from Tommy Robertson because of his reputation of being a radical anti-immigrant politician. And Neil Farage is now trying to capitalize on his popularity on that same issue of limiting immigration, but in not sounding, trying to avoid sounding as radical and extremist. However, the independent analysts all link the events in Britain to a genuine and general rise in nationalism across Europe, both in France and in Britain. And the most popular party, according to opinion polls, AfD, an anti-immigration party as well, in Germany. So this is undeniably a trend. And by simply denouncing it and refusing to acknowledge it, that wouldn't help. This would actually make the problem worse. It cannot just go away by pretending that it doesn't exist. The problem does exist. And what I'd like to do is look at some of the data to actually see what is happening in terms of immigration and why there is such a huge explosion of anger among the British people in terms of the immigration, but also crimes that are committed and connected to some immigrant groups. So here is the data. The data is that during 2024, there were 431,000 illegal immigrants. They're not called illegal in Britain. They're called irregular, a very polite term, irregular. This was down from 685 in 2023, and a similar number in the preceding year, and a similar number in the preceding year. In other words, in the last 5 years, if we count 500,000 each year, that would rise to a pretty significant figure of immigrants. Now, once they come, first the question is, how do they come? Well, they come, and this is all official statistics. I studied this, and it's not that easy to get the statistics because it's covered up and it's not easily revealed in British official data. But nevertheless, there is data on how much recipients of different kinds of financial aid are, etc., and the statistics on how many boat arrivals are. So the largest number of the source of the largest number of immigrants comes from the sea crossing of La Manche, or British Channel. In small groups, they come from France in little boats. And they represent, as a matter of fact, only 33% of the total asylum seekers. In other words, 2/3 come from somewhere else. That could be also the overstay of visas. It could be various other kinds of coming with valid documents from Europe, etc. So once they come, in June 2025, the 106,000 received support from the authorities. 30% of them stayed in hotels. And that was one of the reasons why there was this protest, because the British people, well, those who were upset about it, that they didn't have enough money to live on, and the government was paying for hotels to the immigrants who were processed in exercising their right of asylum. So the very numbers of aid provided and the hotels paid and the processing fees of asylum seekers is seen by many as extraordinary burden on the otherwise overloaded system over the years and years of uncontrolled immigration. The figures that I found is that the British spent 5.5 billion British pounds per year to accommodate various kinds of subsidies. And most likely this does not count everything, because this is only from one source that doesn't count all the expenses associated with the illegal or irregular, as they call it, migration. Now, by far more is disturbing element of the illegal migration is associated with the criminal networks. And they are engaged in all kinds of things, and I see it quite well myself in France, in Marseille, and other places that are just completely taken over by the criminal gangs that are drug pushers on every corner, everywhere. In big cities, I can see that myself. And this is a similar situation in Britain. The drug trade, the prostitution rings, the all kinds of other abuses. But what really triggered enormous outpour of anger in Britain were many, many, many cases of rape of underage girls in Britain. And this was such a big problem that in January 2025, Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper authorized to study this issue and to produce a report, which came out on June 16th, 2025, led by Baroness Louise Casey. So this document is an official document of the British government. Anything that I would cite from it comes from the British government, and it is known as the Casey Report. If you're interested, you can easily put in Google the Casey Report and you could read the whole report yourself. So I will only report here the most important highlights and the conclusions, so that we simply have a picture of what is happening in this area. The report criticizes, and I quote, the culture of blindness, ignorance, prejudice, defensiveness, and even good but misdirected intentions, prioritizing avoiding racism accusations over child protection. In other words, a lot of times they would not pursue the case to avoid being labeled racist. And as a result, a lot of cases were not prosecuted. In fact, the BBC reported that only 3% convictions of the rape cases in Britain. Now, the report also speaks, and I quote, collective failure to address ethnicity questions, with authorities shying away from data due to racist fears, leading to competing and misleading claims and eroded trust of the public. During 2025, 800 cases were dropped, and the general number of those that are dropped is expected by the end of the year to reach 1,000. Now, the official report says about the victim characteristics is that they are mostly female girls from the age of 10 to 18 to 19, and often from lacking care, having learning disabilities or physical disabilities, or a lot of times these are missing children, which means they are in the streets. That means that they avoided placement, which means they are the most vulnerable. So the report also speaks about the frustration of many public officials that not any, but a lot of times their attempts to prosecute the case lead nowhere, and victims are left on their own. Now, this is the report, but now let me focus a little bit about the British press and how that how the press responds to these trends in British society. So here's what I found. The press repeatedly cites reluctance to pursue non-white offenders due to racism fears. There was a survivor, girl B, which is known in the British press, in a place called Rochdale. And she told the courts that the police and social workers knew what was happening to her, but were not concerned. And she testified to that effect, that they just didn't want to prosecute. Now, one of the most sensitive issues here is the ethnicity of those perpetrators. And some of the more outspoken British press spoke of Pakistani and Asian men in local data. Some of the more popular or what is called street press, the Telegraph, Daily Mail, were even more direct, and they were calling for deportations. And they were attacking medieval attitudes towards women. And then it went on and on in terms of accusations of abuse. Now, the political fallout from all of this is quite significant because Prime Minister Starmer, with his stance that he does not accept any challenge from what he calls nationalist thugs, actually makes his situation worse, because the Conservative Party has adopted a critical attitude to Starmer and has criticized his position on the immigration issue, and promising to strengthen border controls and to be more insistent on stricter control of crime in immigrant areas. Also, there is a serious challenge to Starmer rising in his own party, which has been wrecked by splits and scandals, and most recent ones that connected one of its officials to the Epstein files. Starmer is in trouble. There is a brewing discontent in the society. There is a brewing discontent in his own party. There's a serious challenge from the Conservatives, but perhaps the most dangerous challenge is from Nigel Farage, who is launching to a new success the party Reform UK, which in some opinion polls is beating both the Conservatives and the Labour. And in that sense, one could say that Britain is in upheaval, in turmoil, caused by some of these events I described, and the future can see even more turbulence. Thank you very much, and please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you soon with another edition of Issues of Contemporary Politics with Dr. Brovkin.